Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanishalaakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Welcome to all the devotees for this exclusive question answer session. In the next 1 hour, I'll try to answer as many questions as possible. I already have some questions from the previous week. You can also post more questions on live chat. The first question here, in the 5 factors of action, please clarify the place of action. For example, if a person goes to a hospital to withdraw money instead of the bank, he can't withdraw since the place of action is not appropriate. For those who are not familiar with this 5 factors of action, in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 18th chapter, Lord Krishna, while explaining what is really the way to ensure successful accomplishment of any action, Lord Krishna analyzes this according to Sankhya philosophy. In 18th chapter, verses 13 and 14, Krishna describes Panchaitani Mahabaho Karanani Nibodhame Sankhye Kritante Proktani Siddhaye Sarvakarmanam. Krishna is addressing Arjuna and telling, learn from me of the 5 factors which bring about the accomplishment of all action. They are declared in Sankhya philosophy to be 5 different factors. First is Adhishtanam. Adhishtanam means the place of action. Then Karta, the performer. Karanam, the senses. Cheshta, the endeavor. And ultimately Daivam, the super soul. So Krishna says, of these 5 factors of action, the most important factor is what people actually don't consider, which is Daivam, super soul. Because no action can take place without the sanction of the super soul. Of course, for an action to be accomplished, the first 4 factors are in our hands and we have to ensure they are appropriate. Like the proper place of action for performing an action. If the place is not suitable, now place does not mean just the place. Place also means the initial conditions for accomplishment of an action. Just like if we try to start a fire by burning firewood, if the firewood is wet, it is not favorable for our lighting the firewood. So we will not be able to light that wet firewood till it becomes dry. So like this, the place of action is also just like if you try to sow seeds in barren land, you are not going to be able to grow any grains or grow something simply by sowing seeds, simply by tilling the land. But the land has to be fertile, like that. So the place of action refers to the initial conditions which are favorable for accomplishment of the action. But in spite of taking care of the initial conditions, in spite of there being an actual doer to actually carry out the action, just like if I sit and think, I wish that I may read some book. Now, simply wishing is not going to result in my accomplishing that action. I have to actually do something to actually carry out the action of reading. I have to get the book. I have to actually have the proper place where I can sit or situate myself to read the book, and I should be having proper light. I should be having proper eyeglasses if my eyesight doesn't permit me to read without the eyeglasses, etc., etc. So many things. But above all, ultimately, in spite of my arranging all the conditions properly and my actually endeavoring to do with a proper situation, circumstances, the sanction of the super soul ultimately is absolutely required. If the sanction of super soul is not there, the action will not take place. So that is the primary reason why Krishna is explaining this in the 18th chapter, the sanction of super soul. So if we follow Krishna's instructions in what we should do, and that's described in the 3rd chapter, that is called prescribed duties. So if we perform prescribed duties are prescribed by whom? By Krishna. And where are these given? In the scriptures. And who will direct us how to follow the scriptures? It is a bona fide spiritual master. And the bona fide spiritual master gives us, in this age, Srila Prabhupada says, the most important instruction in the scriptures for everyone universally is to chant Hare Krishna and engage in devotional service to actually accomplish the ultimate goal of life, which is to go back home, back to Godhead at the end of this life. So that is the specific instruction which everyone should follow according to the bona fide spiritual master, the Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, for successfully achieving the goal of this human form of life. So that's why Krishna stresses the 5th factor, that is the sanction of the super soul. Now, if we follow Krishna's instructions, the sanction of the super soul is already there. If we don't follow Krishna's instructions, then the sanction of the super soul is based on whether we have got the appropriate karma. We have got the punya to accomplish the action. That punya is required. It's conditional. Whereas when we follow Krishna's instruction given in the scriptures, coming through the bona fide spiritual master, then Krishna's sanction is not only there, Krishna will make all arrangements for us to successfully accomplish the action if we just try to even follow. Just try to follow. So this is the spirit in which you should understand this particular point. Next question. While following austerity of speech, we should not offend others. But sometimes, to speak the truth, we do need to offend others. How do we understand it? Now, this question, for the sake of the other audience who may not be aware of this, in the 17th chapter, Lord Krishna is instructing Arjuna in what is called as austerity of speech. Different kinds of austerities are recommended. Austerity of speech consists of not offending others while speaking. Yes, that is the way to actually properly speak, or speak in the mode of speech in the mode of goodness. But when we have to speak the truth, it's explained by Srila Prabhupada in the 13th chapter, purport, that to call a spade is not considered offensive speech. To call a thief is not offensive speech. But to call a person who's honest as a thief or as a dishonest person is certainly very, very, very offensive. So we have to distinguish between speaking the truth and speaking something without verifying whether it is the fact or it is the truth. So we should speak from the scriptures. We should speak according to the directions of the spiritual master. Then our speech is always truthful. And then such truthful speech, whether somebody may feel offended or not feel offended, it is for their benefit. It is ultimately for their benefit. And it will always do good to them. They don't like to hear. For example, if we recite some prayers from the Bhagavatam, somebody may not like to hear that, but whether they hear it and feel they don't like it, or they, in spite of not liking it, they somehow the vibration of the prayers enters their ears, it will do good to them. It will be for their ultimate benefit. It will be for their eternal benefit. So that is the consideration, that let my speech do highest good to others, whether they like it or not. So that's why it is said in the scriptures, one of the austerities of speech is to speak from the Vedas, to speak from the authentic scriptures, which will be beneficial for oneself and for everyone else. Next question. My in-laws' family is vegetarian but not devotees. It's difficult to completely avoid onion garlic. Can I progress in spiritual life while consuming onion garlic? Is it part of 4 regulative principles? Okay. The background for this question is that in Krishna consciousness, of course, we have to be vegetarian. That is, we cannot eat something that is non-vegetarian food. But even in vegetarian food, there is a restriction, what we can take and what we cannot take. For example, in the Bhagavad Gita, it is described, we should take those food stuff which is in the mode of goodness, sattvic food. Now, let us say we prepare some grape juice. Okay. Now, grape juice, if it is consumed fresh as soon as it is prepared, then that is in the mode of goodness. But if the grape juice is kept for some time and it ferments, that grape juice becomes wine. It becomes an intoxicant. And it is in the mode of ignorance. It should not be consumed. So like that, even vegetarian food, let's say onion and garlic, they are also vegetables. They are also something that is grown like plant food. But they are not in the mode of goodness. They are in the mode of ignorance. So therefore, those should not be consumed. There are certain varieties of mushrooms. Those mushrooms are sometimes poisonous. So such poisonous mushrooms are in the mode of ignorance. Therefore, in general, we avoid mushrooms because it's very difficult to distinguish that which is non-poisonous and that which is poisonous. That which is sattvic and that which is tamasic, or that which is sattvic and that which is rajasic. So we avoid mushrooms like that. So we should not offer Krishna anything which is not sattvic. Therefore, only sattvic food offered to Krishna and then taken as prasadam is proper for a devotee. Now, four regulative principles, one of the principles is no meat eating. That means avoid non-vegetarian food. So while the regulative principles state take only vegetarian food, but to progress in Krishna consciousness, merely taking vegetarian food is not enough. For example, if somebody takes vegetarian food which is not offered to Krishna, then they are not taking prasadam. Though vegetarian food is better than non-vegetarian food in that vegetarian food will not give us the sinful reaction of animal killing. So vegetarian food is that way avoiding the sinful reaction of animal killing, which is very, 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 very dangerous. That reaction is very dangerous. So vegetarian food is definitely better than non-vegetarian food for any person, any human being. But if one is serious about Krishna consciousness, then we need to accept prasadam, means remnants of food offered to Krishna. So what can be offered to Krishna is what Krishna accepts. So Krishna accepts sattvic items. He does not accept anything which is rajasic or tamasic. So therefore, we should offer only sattvic items and then accept the remnants of sattvic items which are offered to Krishna, and that is prasadam. So prasadam is essential for advancing in Krishna consciousness and completely avoiding all types of reactions. Even sattvic food, if it is not offered to Krishna, even though it is not having that sinful reaction of animal killing, still sattvic food not offered to Krishna has got some karma, and that karma will result in contaminating our consciousness, so that we who are already bound up in this material world, we get further into bondage. So it is not liberating. Even sattvic food, which is not offered to Krishna, is not liberating. So therefore, just eating sattvic food, even though better than eating rajasic or tamasic food, is not enough for becoming liberated from material bondage. So Krishna prasadam not only liberates us from material bondage, but also elevates us in spiritual consciousness, in Krishna consciousness. We make progress, positive progress on the spiritual platform to actually become more, become closer to Krishna. We get more attracted to Krishna. We get more enlightenment in Krishna consciousness, etc. So many spiritual benefits are there of taking prasadam. Now, if you cannot completely avoid onion garlic, at least you can offer milk, you can offer water, you can offer fruits, and take that after offering as prasadam. That way you can still make spiritual progress and try to avoid items which have got onion garlic, even among the varieties of different items which are prepared in your house, because most of the items are, all the items are vegetarian, so there is no danger in eating vegetarian food, but avoid the items which contain onion garlic. That way you can, and the items which are not containing onion garlic, you can mentally offer by praying to Krishna, please purify this item of its karma content, so that I may not get any karmic reaction by eating food which is not offered, if it is not offered. But if you can offer items which are not having onion garlic, even though your family may not be engaged in offering such food, then you directly can consume prasadam. Next question. Many times in the lectures, I have heard Sat and Power Rasa being used interchangeably. How Sat Rasa is to be understood as Power Rasa? I'll come back to you on this question a little later. I don't have an immediate answer for this. The next question. I read in one of Prabhupada's purport that one man's food is another man's poison. What does it mean? It was in the context of taking Krishna's remnants as prasadam. Okay. Now, the general meaning of one man's food is another man's poison is different. People have different preferences when it comes to eating. Just like Bhagavad Gita explains, people in the mode of goodness, sattvic people, they like to eat sattvic food. Just like those who are raised in a sattvic atmosphere and they are accustomed to eating sattvic food. Now they cannot even stand the smell of fish. What to speak of eating fish, which is cooked by some people who eat food in the mode of ignorance, tamasic food. Tamasic people like to eat tamasic food, which is non-vegetarian, for example, is tamasic food. They like to eat that. So that same tamasic food which one person likes to eat. So it is his food because he likes to eat tamasic food. But for a sattvic person, that is like poison. He will never even go near it. It is considered untouchable by a sattvic person. Tamasic food is considered untouchable, like that. So, even rajasic food, for example, food which has got too much of chili, too much of chili. Now, sattvic people will never touch that, never like it. They cannot eat it. They just can't eat it. Whereas people are accustomed to eating and they like too much of chilies, and they're very, very rajasic people. They eat that and relish it, and they think it is very, very nice and attractive. So like that, the same item is not liked by everybody, is not preferred by everybody, is not suitable for everyone's palate. Okay. Now, in the context of taking Krishna's remnants as prasadam, even though anything sattvic offered to Krishna, the remnants are prasadam, still in taking the prasadam also, we may have some specific choices according to what we like to take and also according to what is suitable for our health. So as a health consideration, somebody may not take milk products because they can't digest it. Or somebody may not take some particular vegetable because they are allergic to that vegetable. So in such cases, selecting a particular item of Krishna Prasadam as against some other item is not considered rejecting Prasadam, is not considered offensive. No. But we should not at any cost accept tamasic food in order to please somebody else. If we want to seriously progress in Krishna consciousness and avoid sinful reactions, we should not take any tamasic food, even if it is meant for pleasing somebody else who is tamasic in nature. No, we should not do that. Next question. Krishna's protection is for pure devotee only or for new devotee also, since I don't have strong faith? Krishna's protection is for devotees, special protection. Krishna's special protection is for devotees of all categories. Pure devotees, most certainly, they're fully protected by Krishna and they accept Krishna's protection. Now, a new devotee is also fully protected by Krishna, but the new devotee does not yet know how to take Krishna's protection under different circumstances. because the new devotee is not able to recognize the presence of Krishna in all situations, in all places, at all times, in all circumstances in this world. For example, a new devotee may think that if I am in the association of other devotees who are practicing Krishna consciousness, then that circumstances are favorable for my practicing devotional service. So I can very nicely do my devotional service, let's say, of chanting Hare Krishna. But if I am in the association of non-devotees, I cannot chant Hare Krishna. But that is not correct. Anybody can chant Hare Krishna anywhere, in any circumstances, because it is involving your tongue and your mind and your endeavor as spirit soul. So as spirit soul, anybody can, just like sometimes somebody is told, don't chant, and they are being forced not to chant. So you may not chant loudly, but in your mind you can chant, even at such a time. Or softly you can chant without the other person hearing your chanting, who's trying to stop you from chanting. So like that, actually devotional service is possible under all circumstances. If one type of devotional service is not possible, you can do another type of devotional service. Because there are many varieties of ways in which devotional service can be executed. So this you have to learn as a new devotee, that you can execute devotional service under all circumstances, in all places, in all situations, in all types of association. But you should learn from the expert devotees how to do that. And besides that, you should develop the faith that because you are even attempting to do devotional service, even though you may be a new devotee, you always have Krishna's protection, because you are attempting to even do devotional service. Krishna considers you as a devotee. Not just Krishna considering. The fact is everyone is Krishna's devotee, because everyone is Krishna's part and parcel. Just like a son who has developed some misunderstanding with his father may think, oh, I don't like my father, therefore my father does not care for me. But actually the fact is, whether the son cares for the father or not, the father always considers his son as his son. And he always wants to protect his son, to provide for his son, to reciprocate with his son, etc. Like that, Krishna from his side, he always is concerned about the well-being of every living entity, because every living entity is his own part and parcel. But the other living entity may not want Krishna's protection, may not be aware of Krishna, may not be conscious of Krishna always, may not be remembering Krishna, may have forgotten Krishna, so many things like that. So non-devotees are forgetful of Krishna, have turned away from Krishna, but otherwise Krishna is never neglectful of anybody, never rejects anybody. Particularly devotees, Krishna gives extra care, extra attention, extra protection. That we have to always remember. What is the meaning of dualities of material existence, and how are there no dualities in spiritual nature? Duality of material existence is in this material world. Even though we try to avoid miseries, always there will be miseries, even in the midst of good circumstances, good situations. There will be some unfavorable or bad situations coming in between so-called favorable or good situations. So this good and bad, favorable and unfavorable, heat and cold, happiness and distress, you cannot totally avoid distress. You cannot always have only happiness in this material world. This is called duality. Happiness and distress, heat and cold, favorable and unfavorable situations, people who are good to you and people who are bad to you. You cannot always avoid bad people. You cannot always have only good people in your company or in your association or in your neighborhood. You cannot. So these dualities always exist in the material world. That's the meaning of material existence. But in spiritual nature, there is no duality, means there is no happiness and distress. Just like when you say spiritual happiness, is there something called spiritual distress? Doesn't exist. There's only spiritual happiness in spiritual nature, in spiritual world, in spiritual atmosphere, in spiritual endeavor. There's only spiritual enjoyment or spiritual happiness or spiritual joy, spiritual bliss. There is no thing as spiritual misery, spiritual distress, spiritual unhappiness. There's no such thing. It doesn't exist. Just like spiritual body. In material body, we have healthy body, diseased body. Dvandva. But in spiritual body, there is no disease at all. There's no disease at all. It's only healthy body. Eternally healthy, always healthy. Spiritual body, people are always joyful. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma. That is a spiritual nature or spiritual platform. Brahma Bhuta platform. In the Bhagavad Gita 18, chapter 54th verse, it is described. You elevate yourself to the spiritual platform by spiritual practice, then there is only bliss, only prasanna. You're always joyful, eternally joyful. And we cannot understand how is that possible in our present condition, because we only know there is sometimes happiness, sometimes distress. Always the two are there. Dvandva is there in the material platform or material existence. So we have to practice Krishna consciousness and hear from the Acharya, from the scriptures, and develop the faith and the proper understanding that by spiritual practice, we are able to elevate our consciousness to the spiritual platform, or we enter spiritual nature, we get out of material nature, and we are able to experience freedom from these dualities. And absolute spiritual nature, where there are no dualities, is what we'll experience. Next question. If chanting of Hare Krishna is sufficient in the age of Kali, what is the necessity of deity worship? Good question. Well, chanting of Hare Krishna is sufficient, but we are not able to always chant properly 24 hours a day. We are not able to do that. Therefore, we should chant and augment or add to our chanting other practices of devotional service, so that will strengthen our chanting. That will actually purify us to be able to chant better. For example, somebody is engaged in chanting Hare Krishna. If they also engage or participate in deity worship, then just merely participating in deity worship also cleanses their heart, which is very easy. Just like you go to a temple and bow down before a deity of Krishna. It's so easy. It's so easy to do. And it's so very powerful. In bowing down before Krishna, there is no rules, so many rules or different consideration of offenses to be observed. Bowing down to Krishna, even a child can do, you can do, anybody can do. Just bow down to Krishna. That's all. And you get the benefit of spiritual credit, spiritual advancement simply by bowing down to Krishna. Krishna says that in the Bhagavad Gita. Mam namaskuru, as the most confidential and topmost instruction. Krishna is such a simple thing, anybody can do. Please do that and very rapidly you make advancement. So deity worship means the deity form of Krishna is very important in devotional service. We should not neglect. We should not neglect. So, in addition to chanting Hare Krishna, either we have a picture of a deity and we bow down, offer some flower, offer prayers, and offer some food and accept the remnants of the deity of Krishna, deity or deity's picture. And this way we make advancement in Krishna consciousness to be able to chant better, to be able to engage more in chanting, increase our chanting. All that is facilitated by deity worship. Next question. If I chant without bead bag, will devatas take away the credit of japa? Now, japa means chanting Hare Krishna oneself and hearing it, whatever you are chanting. That is to be done a fixed number of times. It's to be done with a fixed number of times. So that's why counting is important. And counting is very easily, practically, very nicely done on beads. Because any other form of counting, it's not very convenient. It's not very convenient, and it's not very easy to count on anything other than a set of beads, 108 beads. Okay, the Japa mala. Now, Japa mala is very sacred because generally we are recommended to chant on Tulsi Japa mala, Tulsi mala, made of Tulsi wood. Now, that is very sacred. Now, that should always be protected, kept in a proper place, should not touch anything impure, should not be made dirty. So, protecting the Tulsi beads, sacred beads, is also an aspect of devotional service, of bhakti. So, therefore, bead bag is very, 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 very essential. If you are chanting on beads, bead bag is most essential. So, why would you not chant without the bead bag? Why would you chant on Japa mala without the bead bag? Why would you do like that? So, to protect the beads, the bead bag is important. And you can very comfortably chant using the bead bag. If you're not practiced, a little practice will easily help you to become comfortable and find and understand the convenience and experience the convenience of chanting with the bead bag while protecting the beads. Now, as far as devatas taking away the credit of japa, I'm not too sure about this because I've not read anything to this in this way. But certainly, I would say, irrespective of whether devatas take away the credit or don't take away the credit for those who chant without bead bag, it is definitely very important to chant on a japa mala while the japa beads are kept in the bead bag to protect the japa mala, to respect the japa mala, to not commit offense against Tulsi. Next question. Why did Krishna not put everyone in the internal energy instead of having external energy category of jivas? In that way, no one would fall down to material world. Okay. The simple question, if I may rephrase your question, whoever has asked this question, that why is there external energy in the first place? Actually, Srila Prabhupada explains there is no need for Krishna to have the external energy. It is only existing for the sake of fulfilling some jiva's desires for material enjoyment. Only reason material world exists is for Krishna to fulfill the desires of some jivas who want material enjoyment. Because in the spiritual world, in internal energy or spiritual energy, there's only spiritual pleasure. There's only spiritual happiness. There is no material happiness. Neither there's any material distress, no material happiness, no material distress. Nothing material. So those who desire material enjoyment, what is material enjoyment characteristic? It is independent enjoyment. Enjoyment in forgetfulness of Krishna. Enjoyment in which I am the Lord of everything I survey. I am the master. I am not a servant. I want everyone else to be the servant. I want to be the supreme master. Or at least I want to be the master of people of whom I am dealing with or I am trying to interact with. I want to be their master. I don't want to be their servant. So like this is the desire of the jiva, which is actually very, very dangerous and detrimental for the jiva. It's not good for the jiva to desire independent enjoyment, because our position is we are eternally part of Krishna, we're eternally connected with Krishna. Our happiness is only in relationship with Krishna, in connection with Krishna. Because if we try to turn away from Krishna, then turning away from Krishna is possible only if we are placed in material world, in the material existence. So it is that desire of ours, that's all. So we have to change our desire, understanding very clearly, realizing that why do I foolishly desire to enjoy materially? I should not have material desires for enjoyment. That's so spiritual desires for enjoyment are very, very, very much superior to material desires for enjoyment. So understanding that, realizing that, becoming wise, becoming enlightened in this regard, we will automatically give up all material desires. So a little glimpse of the taste of what is spiritual happiness, if we get a little, a slight attraction for Krishna, then no more material attraction will remain. Because Krishna is so very nice, so very attractive, so very wonderful, that relishing spiritual pleasure in Krishna's, in relationship with Krishna, that is in devotional service, is so very relishable that automatically param drishtva nivartate. There's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita in 2nd chapter that Krishna says, if you were to actually experience spiritual happiness, spiritual attraction, spiritual pleasure, then automatically you give up everything material as abominable, as very, very horrible, is very bad, you'll automatically give up. So please understand, Krishna is having this external energy, creates the material world for the sake of those who are rebellious, those who are insistent, I want material happiness only. I want to enjoy materially. I want to be the Lord, Supreme Lord. For such people, Krishna has created the material. That's all. As we cannot avoid reading newspapers, how much of it should be done if we are serious about Krishna consciousness? As you yourself are stating in the question, cannot avoid means you are looking for items of news which are relevant for your day-to-day dealings in the material world. For example, the newspapers inform you, today there is going to be a bandh. So if you have to travel, then you should be aware that there is a bandh in some area or some particular locality. There is some information is there in the newspaper. So that extent, you just scan the newspaper for relevant items of news which is helpful to you for your ordinary work. Petrol price is going to increase from today by some 5 rupees or something. So you should be prepared. You should carry enough money to fill petrol for your vehicle. So like this, be practical. What information is required for you for your dealings in the outside world? Or let us say in the newspaper, sometimes they will announce some press release will be given by a Krishna ISKCON temple or by Hare Krishna movement that we're going to celebrate some particular festival for 5 days or 10 days or whatever. So that news is very much relevant to you. Read that. So like that, you filter out news by seeing the headlines, what is relevant to you. That's all. Next question. Are there 33 crore devatas in each Brahmanda or for the entire 1/3 of material universe? There are 33 crore devatas. Now let me rephrase your question. Are there 33 crore devatas in each universe? Or are there 33 crore total devatas in all the universes put together? The answer is there is 33 crore devatas for each universe. Now, how to understand this huge number of devatas? Now, devata means somebody who is an administrator at different levels. There are administrators. Just like you take a state government's administration. At the topmost, there is the governor and the chief minister. In the executive and the legislature. And the judiciary, there is the chief justice of the high court. In the state, I'm talking in the state. Okay. Now, under them, there are so many levels of other people who are assisting or doing some small part of a particular big organizational arrangement of administration. Just like the chief minister is there, under him there are other ministers. Those ministers have under them a whole ministry with IAS officers and so many levels of different officers, under them different clerks, and under them different and even the jurisdiction also. There is a whole state in the capital. Let's say capital of Karnataka is Bangalore. Bangalore, there is a whole state itself, the state assembly or the state administration at the Vidhan Sabha. Then there is the districts, and under the district there are taluks. Under the taluks there are villages. In the villages at the lowest level there is a village administrators. So like this, in the universe, every planet there is a predominating deity. Just like for this earth planet there is the Bhudevi, or for the heavenly planet there is Indra, predominating deity. But under them there are so many other people to assist them in so many different ways. So at the lowest level, if you consider the person, from the highest level, at different levels, in different departments, in different places, then the total will be 33 crore in the whole universe. Millions of planets, each planet has millions of places, and each place having so many different details of administration. So like that. Next question. Please help to understand if migraine headaches can be treated spiritually without allopathy medication and visiting a doctor. Okay. Now, if I may rephrase this question, is it that for certain chronic diseases or chronic problems which there is no easy cure possible in the regular medications given by allopathy doctors or Ayurvedic doctors or some other any system of medicine. Any doctor is not able to help you. Spiritually is there a treatment. Now, spiritual treatment means treating the root cause of disease itself. What is that root cause of disease itself? This material existence. As long as I am in material existence, as long as I'm in material consciousness, I will have a material body. A material body is liable to become diseased. How much ever anybody wants to avoid diseases, there is a possibility the body can become diseased. And some diseases cannot be treated. We hear somebody gets this cancer. Now, cancer, there is no cure. There is no cure at all for cancer. So they may take some medication which may give some temporary relief. That's okay. Somebody may take it. But eventually cancer is going to eat away the different organs, the cancerous portion of the body, and the person is going to just die untimely. And even while the cancer disease is there, temporary relief is temporary relief. That's all. It actually, even the temporary relief is very horrible. That's what I've heard from people who have undergone the treatment for cancer, the chemotherapy or whatever. It's worse than the pain due to the cancer itself, the pain of undergoing the treatment of chemotherapy. So like that, this material world is a place filled with miseries. This realization we should have. This body is always subject to disease. See what Krishna says in the 13th chapter. He says there are 4 fundamental defects and 4 fundamental problems of material existence. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, Dukkha, Doshanu, Darshanam. Real knowledge is to know that there are 4 fundamental problems of material existence and 4 fundamental defects of material existence. What is that? This birth in the material world, disease, old age, and death. These 4 fundamental problems, there is no material solution for these problems. No material solution. Only solution is Krishna consciousness. Similarly, if somebody has got a disease for which there is no cure in any of these regular medical systems, allopathy, Ayurveda, homeopathy, and naturopathy, and so many things, then the only solution is spiritual life. So yes, spiritual life or spiritual practice can cure all our problems. Why just migraine headache? How does it solve spiritual solutions to material problems? There's a section in one book called Science of Self-Realization. You read that section, spiritual solutions to material problems. Because some material problems, there is no material solution. So that is solved only by Krishna consciousness, by spiritual practice, by chanting Hare Krishna. So please take up chanting Hare Krishna, and as you keep practicing chanting, the more you become absorbed in chanting Hare Krishna, the more you can divert your mind away from material happenings, material pains in the body, material anxiety. So you divert your attention, your consciousness. Now, how does a person feel a pain in the leg? It is because the attention or the consciousness is in the body. Now, when the attention or consciousness is in the body and I'm having leg pain, if I cannot treat that leg pain, or I'm taking some treatment but still some pain is there. So how do I divert my attention? By attraction for Krishna, by attraction for hearing Bhagavatam, by attraction for Krishna bhajans, Krishna kirtan, melodious Krishna kirtan, if I divert my attention and completely become absorbed in Krishna kirtan, absorbed in hearing Krishna katha, absorbed in chanting Hare Krishna, then my pain, I will not be conscious of it. Or I can tolerate the pain, or I can bear the pain while I'm chanting Hare Krishna. And by chanting Hare Krishna, if I make spiritual progress to become completely purified of material contamination in the heart, I will no more get a material body. And in this body also, by being spiritually absorbed, none of the material defects in the body can hamper, can bother me, will not bother me. I'll become free from all these botherations. So that requires spiritual progress by practicing spiritual life. So definitely migraine headache, if there is no cure, then one has to very seriously practice Krishna consciousness to actually divert the attention from this headache towards Krishna consciousness. Next question. If we have some ill feelings for a few people due to some family issues, can we still be situated in transcendence or pure consciousness? Yes. Krishna consciousness means whatever be our contamination in the heart, or whatever be our feelings like, due to whatever reasons in the past. Now I am taken to Krishna consciousness. By Krishna consciousness, my consciousness becomes purified. My ill feelings for others will disappear. That is the progress in Krishna consciousness. It is possible. So as you make progress in Krishna consciousness, your consciousness becomes more and more purified, and you are gradually going to become more and more purified to come to the state of complete purification. So it requires some time. So I may have ill feelings for somebody who is always irritating me, always giving me trouble. I may have some ill feelings toward that person. Yes, that's natural. But as I keep on chanting Hare Krishna, I keep on practicing Krishna consciousness, then I will understand that actually that person who is giving me trouble is not the real cause for my suffering. My suffering is because of my own past sinful actions. So that person has become an instrument for my bad karma. That understanding we will get by progressing Krishna consciousness. So then by chanting Hare Krishna, all my sinful reactions are gradually getting nullified, getting destroyed. And when all my sinful reactions are destroyed, when my consciousness is fully pure, I am situated in transcendental consciousness, no more reactions, no more influence of the material modes or gunas, material atmosphere. I am completely in transcendental bliss. And that's our goal. And that is possible even before I quit my body, provided I practice. Therefore, you should practice Krishna consciousness. And as you advance, all these ill feelings towards somebody, or some hatred, or some reservations, all these kind of things will completely vanish. Next question. What are the causes of untimely death of humans? What happens to the soul in case of untimely death? First part of the question, what are the causes of untimely death of humans? Untimely death means, first of all, let me explain what untimely death means. Untimely death means, supposing at the time of birth, due to our past karma, we are allowed to enter a particular body or get a particular type of birth in a particular type of body for a certain duration, a fixed duration. It's a fixed duration. It's called a lifespan. Now that lifespan, generally people will live their lifespan, provided they don't commit any very grievous sinful activities in that life. Supposing I'm in this body, in this life, Let's say my lifespan is, say, about 80 years. I don't know what is my lifespan. I'm just telling. Let's say my fixed lifespan is 80 years. But I do very, 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 very sinful activity, just like the example of the Kauravas in Mahabharata. Now, the Kauravas died untimely. They died very young. Why? Because they insulted Draupadi, the most chaste lady. That's why they did not live their fixed lifespan at the time of their birth. What was their fixed lifespan? They didn't live. They died untimely. So untimely death is for people who are very, very sinful, who are grievously sinful. Untimely death will happen to them. What happens to the soul in case of untimely death? The soul will not make progress to the next level of evolution of consciousness. It's like from human birth, we progress. If we don't do very sinful activities, naturally we may progress to the next level of taking birth in the human species. 4 lakh species are there. Just like the lower animals and birds and reptiles and insects and worms, they are automatically evolving in their consciousness. After a insect body, they get a next body, and a higher species. But in human form, if we are sinful, we don't get the next higher form. If we, after finishing life in this body, we don't get a next higher form. So then, if they die untimely, then they are again going to take birth in the same type of form. Whatever duration was not, they did not live. Supposing they're supposed to live in a particular type of body for 80 years and they died untimely, they died 40 years. 40 more balance years are remaining in that type of body. They have to take birth again in that type of body. 40 years they have to live. They cannot go to the next higher body. That is what happens. So they get again birth in that body after suffering the punishment for the grievous sinful activity in hell. That is also there. So I'll stop here. Thank you very much. The remaining questions I'll answer in the next week's exclusive question answer session. Hare Krishna.